You're watching a Roll for Crit review for the card game Sleep Tight by a company called The Moon Girl. In this card game, you play as little kids who have been trapped in a horrible nightmare by the evil Sandman, and it's up to you to attempt to defeat the Sandman and escape him together, or possibly there are a couple different ways that you can forget about your friends and get out and just save yourself and not worry about anyone else.
You'll be drawing cards and hopefully being able to assemble enough of these soul fragments, whether they belong to you or someone else apparently, in order to try to escape, be that alone or together. Now, you will start off with 4 of each of these, but as the game progresses, you'll hopefully gain more, possibly have less at the start of a turn. To start a round, you're each going to draw 1 card from the deck. Then you have the option to either discard cards in order to get another soul fragment, or spend them to get another card. You'll also be dealt a dreamscape, one for each player. Now, they will have symbols such as this. What you need to know is first, you will gain soul fragments in the bank. Those are limited, so if there's none there, no one gets any. Equal this amount, so this player would get 2, that one would get 1. They have an environment, but that won't come into play until later. Finally, there's this symbol on the bottom. There are cards of different types, whether they have this running symbol or grabbing symbol. They will cost more for this person to play if they have that times 2. Once you have decided you've drawn and spent and made sure that you're ready to go, you're going to choose a number of cards to play. Could be 0, could be your entire hand. You'll place them face down in front of you. And then once everyone's ready, you'll flip them over. Now, I want to show this now. You'll notice this also has soul fragments on the side. You don't need to pay those, but you need that many. So this player needs at least 3 to play this one or this one. This person only needs 2. You can discard other cards to make them cheaper, but for the most part, it's just make sure you have that around. Now, once those are flipped, the Sandman's going to come into play. He will flip over a card. Now, the Sandman's card, they will have a symbol matching a possible environment. If you don't match that environment, you only take 1 damage from the Sandman. But if you match it, you're going to take 2, unless, of course, you have shields. Those will help you take any damage throughout that round. As stated at the beginning, you start off with 3 soul fragments, and that's where that damage comes into play. For if you drop to 0 for any reason, you have been killed. So you're going to want to be very careful with the soul fragments. That's not just because you want to play these cards, but you don't live if you don't have any. What's scary is the Sandman deck. This isn't the only thing that can come up. There are ones with multiple elements. There are cards that just cancel everyone's cards, or there's the Soul Consumer, which cancels everyone's cards and make people lose a lot more soul fragments depending on what they play. The only way to stop that is if someone has the card that specifically negates that in their hand. And there aren't many, so you want to be very careful. Once you've dealt with the Sandman, you will continue on with people's cards. They have plenty of different values that could be helpful for everyone or maybe hurt the players around you.
There are several different symbols that could appear across the cards, the action cards that you'll have in your hand and be playing. A lot of different possible effects that they may have. Like we said, there's the shields, which may protect you against the Sandman or even other players. There are any cards with the symbols of these soul fragments. Sometimes that will just mean you get a soul fragment, or if it has an arrow like this, that means it affects another player. So this card actually is stealing one from someone else. So you may be a little bit nasty to your fellow kids, depends on what you're doing. Anything with this symbol here means that you're going to be drawing a card. So in this case, this means you're actually drawing a random card from someone else's hand. Some cards may just let you draw straight from the deck. This one here is draw 3, and you discard 2 of the ones from your hand, so you get to decide what you want to keep. Now, there are multiple ways to win this game, and one of them is together as a group. And the way you do that involves these symbols here. It looks like the Sandman symbol with a crack through it. Anytime you play a card with one of those, you discard the top card of the Sandman deck. You win the game together cooperatively if you manage to go through this entire deck completely and everybody is still alive. If you're not alive, you don't get to take part in that victory. If the Dreamscape deck runs out before that happens, then everyone loses. But you could also try to win just on your own. There's this card here, which you can see has 10 soul fragment symbols on it. That's a lot. But if you manage to save all of those up and play this card, you escape the dream and you have won and everybody else gets left behind. So you could be a little bit selfish if you're trying to play that way. Or you might also come across this card. If you draw this from the deck, you have a choice. You can either return it at the expense of losing one of your soul fragments, or you can accept it. This is an offer from the Sandman to become his secret agent. And at that point, you are now hoping that the Sandman wins. In fact, you can also reveal yourself as an exposed agent, and then all of the damage that you would give to the Sandman, you give to other players instead. Then there's this card, which people can play, which seeks out to see if there is anyone playing as a secret agent. If someone plays this and someone is being a secret Sandman person, they must reveal themselves at that time. So you're deciding, should we all try to work together as a group, or is one person going to go for either the most soul fragments, or are they going to make a bargain with the Sandman and do things that way? Some particularly nasty ways they could go out. But otherwise, that's how the game goes until one of those decks runs out or one of those other conditions is fulfilled.
So it's a game that's designed to have a lot of different win conditions, but I gotta say for us, almost every time it's about the solo win. I don't even think like it's just us discussing it. It always worked out so much easier.
It definitely, your group has to really want to win together. Not that it's like so hard to win cooperatively, but it's just a lot easier to, at least we found, to win solo.
I don't even think I guess it is falling under easier. The thing I've noticed is
faster.
I feel like it's definitely faster. I think if you didn't mention there was a cooperative win element, I don't think people would notice it. Like some other games, if you played, maybe I'm trying to think of a hidden trader game, like, wait, so the blue team is working together. You'd have to understand that in like Avalon or something. I think you could actually skip over the cooperativeness because it's so obvious the other wins of being like, okay, I need those 10 soul fragments, or to just kill everyone as the Sandman's helper.
Yes, and this may be very different for your group. I do think like I said, it depends on your players. Like if your group is like, no, let's win together, you could win together. It depends on how you're playing, and there are things like, you might look around and go, okay, that person has a bunch of cards in their hand they're not playing. What's going on? So maybe you try to use this to take cards from their hand, or if you manage to get this, try to expose them. Mm-hmm. Or if you're just afraid, there's only one of these make a deal with Sandman cards.
There are two of the wake yourself up.
Right. I think there might be 2 or 3 actually of these.
I know there's multiple.
Yeah, there's multiple of them. So this one I think is kind of rare. This one though,
no, yeah.
There's a few of them, but you do need a lot of soul fragments. So even if you think someone's going for it, you could always try getting the cards that let you steal from them, or maybe even there's cards that will let you redirect damage, for instance, towards them. I will say, it's not a total cakewalk to get those 10. You do have to work
but
it.
I feel like the Sandman one I like a bit more because I feel like it's more like a hidden role. You're the traitor in essence. And I think there is that you can get punished because if people realize you're the traitor and you're revealed, when they play an attack card, they can attack you. So they can knock you out. And by the way, that's another thing that the rules didn't go too much over. In fact, that's probably another issue. What happens when you die?
Right. Yeah. I think you're just gone. You're eliminated. Yeah. I mean, the game it will probably last you 20 minutes or so, maybe 30 minutes with a full play group. So it's pretty quick. One thing I do like also about the whole Sandman thing, I like that you can refuse this if you want.
I do. And if people see that does help with the cooperative nature.
Because that's something we will often complain about in some games where if you become a traitor halfway through, you can feel like you I
didn't have a choice, especially if that deck was about to end
Right. Oh, it turns out I can't win because I now am evil. But it's kind of cool to be like, oh, I have a choice. I'm deciding if I want to do this or not. Or maybe you're like close to death and you're like, I just can't afford to lose the soul, so I have to make a deal with the Sandman.
I think you actually have to accept it, if I recall correctly. If you only had one left.
Oh, you can't kill yourself.
It did, right. For me, it never came up. I always had the thing to spend, and usually I was just like, I'll try it out.
I also like the soul fragment system. I think it's interesting the way that they're your life, but they also give you more options. So you have to decide what's worth the risk of you can spend more to get more cards, or are you afraid of getting attacked, or do you want to build up to try to escape? Do you think someone's going to steal them from you this round, so you want to hold on to them? That can be an interesting back and forth kind of thing.
It's definitely an interesting. I think I've seen other games that do that as well, where your resource is your life.
Sure.
And I will say there are ways to defend, not just from the Sandman's attacks, which they're annoying, but really it's players, I feel like, where the worst. Like where you're just like, okay, I'm going to steal 3 soul fragments from you, and you're just like, oh, okay. Like I think one time you were even like, can I just kill you first round? You like looked at me and asked. I was like, what?
Yeah, right. Yeah. The Sandman deck is definitely there just if you aren't hurting each other, I think. Like it's the thing to keep you on your toes, except for like we said,
The soul
that
consumption.
that
That's
one
the
really
scary one.
card that can come out, which has very scary art too. And I like a lot of the art in this game. It's very very Tim Burton. This is very Babadook, that kind of spooky, but not like too spooky. It's spooky in a cute way. A big thing is definitely all these icons here. It's going to take you a little bit of time, at least did for us, to
There is not a reference card. It's just a rule book. So you're going to have to be constantly going back. It's always fun when someone's like, can I see the rule book again? You're like, oh, what did they draw?
Right. What obscure symbol that they're going to play that's going to ruin my turn? Yeah. So I think that's something that usually is done, makes the translation easier and things like that. And sometimes it's nice, but there are some cards in this game where I have to go, okay, so this one means nobody's cards work, but this one means I draw from, like, the symbols can overlap in ways that are not always intuitive, unfortunately. Once you get the hang, it's definitely, I also think, makes more sense. It actually has a solo mode, this game, that goes from 1 to 4 players. I think you probably want the full player group, at least for the aspects we said, like having a hidden traitor. I think it makes it much more interesting, other than just like in a 2-player game. Oh, if you're against me, you're against me anyway, probably. So,
or play single player and just hope that you can accept the Sandman's offer and you just win.
Right? Yeah,
that's not how it works.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the things that makes it overall slightly uneven, is because it does really depend on your players, and they could really transform the vibe of the game overall.
Crits and misses for Sleep Tight.
Crits. The game has multiple varied win conditions. Each one feels different, plays different, and is thematic in its own way.
Each goal is very different in what it wants in order to get that win, so you can try to go for whichever one is best for you, or maybe some subterfuge to trick people to think what you actually want.
Your soul fragments act as your life and as an opportunity to get more cards, more actions on your turn. So it's up to you to decide how you want to balance between those two things, in addition to possibly using them for one of those aforementioned win conditions.
Misses. There are multiple ways to win, one of them being cooperative, but to be honest, we feel like there's very little incentive for that to happen. The other win conditions tend to come up pretty often and be really easy to complete compared to the cooperative nature. The game really relies on everyone else really wanting that cooperative win, instead of it being a reasonable route compared to the other ones.
Because every player has a decent chance to escape and leave everyone on their own, even if they don't fully turn over to the other team, the game feels a little more cutthroat than I think it should, and it doesn't feel like you have that possibility for true cooperation unless your group really, really tries for it.
The rulebook is a bit sloppy and the symbology isn't great. Combined with the fact there aren't reference cards, just the one rulebook, it can be a bit annoying when you're trying to pass the rulebook around, find out what cards do or do not do, and maybe give away what you actually have.
As we said, cards with only icons on them can be tough to decipher, and the rules aren't much help either. There are several situations that we had to look things up, and they weren't exactly clear. They were ambiguous in ways that made the game difficult to play, and for a game that's relatively simple, that is kind of a big miss.
I am not a fan of games when you can be eliminated from them. Now, this is a shorter game, but because you don't know what other people are playing, you can be killed in the first round. That can feel really bad regardless if the other players, maybe they got the pact in the beginning and want to go with it, or just accidentally killed you. It's not fun to be removed before you had a chance to play anything. Maybe I'm being a little harsh on this game, but I feel like we've seen other games do the things so much better. Semi-cooperative, we've definitely seen games that do a good job of being like, I want to go for that for the win, but we really need to work together on that enemy or something. Versus using games that have like, okay, my deck is my life points. I could draw more, but I may kill myself. And of course, hidden roles. That's your bread and butter. So, and I'm pretty sure you've seen plenty of games that do that very well.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very simple game. I think it really depends a lot on the strength of its theme and its artwork, and I do think those come across in a fun way. And if you get a kick out of the art, I think this is something that it's relatively easy to play in spite of some difficulties with some of the rules, and it plays pretty quickly. I think there's some positive attributes to it, but you are correct. I do agree with you that there are definitely plenty of games that do it better, and there were enough issues that I had with it that confused me. I honestly think this game, so much would be accomplished. It would go so far if the rule book were just better. I do think there's a lot, and if these cards...
Is probably like almost the worst thing, because how many times did we always I don't think we had a game when we couldn't just play it.
Yeah, or the icons, and this goes right along with it for me, were clearer, better laid out. I think it's very likely there may be a couple of things that we did that maybe we didn't do in the way that was intended and would be more fun if we did, but we just couldn't know any better. At the end of the day, I think if you're in love with the art, this is something that you might want to try out. But ultimately, if you want something like this, with this kind of possibility for a secret trader that's a lighter card game, you are right. There's a lot that do it a lot better out there.
Let us know if you had the chance to play this, and if you disagree, is your group tend to go for the cooperative win, and somehow we just always tend to avoid it because we're terrible people? You can let us know in those comments down below.
Yeah, I would like to just try that, honestly, and just be like, hey, well, I guess, there's a solo mode. So if you can't get along with anyone else, then you can just play it by yourself. Let us know what you think. We can't wait to hear from you. My name is Jonathan.
I'm Will.
And this was our Roll for Crit review of Sleep Tight.
Congratulations, you have reached the end of the video. But before you leave, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. If you want to help us out more, you can check us out on Patreon. And if you want to see us play about in playing board games or some video games, you can check out our Twitch or our other YouTube channel, Roll for Crit Live, for more longer form videos that tend to be streamed live. So come join us.